그죠? 네. 그래요. 지금 안녕하세요. 지금 사람사랑유학원 대표 이선호입니다. 그러면 지금 오늘은 OIC에서 밑에 이렇게 화면에 나와 있죠. 야스민 사와 그리고 아론 홉데이 씨가 그 영국 의대 입학에 관련돼 가지고 세미나를 진행해 드리도록 하겠습니다. 거의 앞서서 제가 간단하게 지금 오늘 세미나에서 대해서 어떤 걸 포함하고 있는지 그 내용을 잠시 알려드리도록 하겠습니다. Okay, let me give an overview of the today's seminar. Okay, and then you can introduce and then start. Okay. 지금 의대 세미나 준비를 하고 있는데 지금 제가 그 파일을 보고 너무 내용이 좀 자세하고 굉장히 많은 정보를 포함하고 있어가지고 좀 요약을 했거든요. 그래서 이 부분에 대해서 잠깐 좀 설명을 해드리고 바로 시작을 하는 게 더 좋을 것 같고 이해하는 데 훨씬 더 좋을 것 같아요. 그리고 이 세미나를 이렇게 보다가 중간에 그만두고 이렇게 나가시는 분들은 제가 녹화를 하고 있거든요. 그래서 전달을 해드리도록 하고 하지만 되게 좀 절박하신 분이나 정말 많이 알아보고 싶은 분들은 이 세미나 굉장히 많은 걸 포함하고 있거든요. 그래서 그걸 잠깐 알려드릴 테니까 꼭 뭐 도움이 된다고 싶으시면 꼭 늦더라도 늦게까지 하더라도 꼭 참여하길 바라요. 그래서 지금까지 세미나 중에서는 가장 좀 깊고 방대한 의대 관련된 정보를 포함하고 있습니다. 그래서 반드시 좀 지루하더라도 아니면 뭐 좀 깊더라도 좀 내용이 힘들더라도 좀 이해해 보시길 부탁드립니다. 그리고 여기에서는 어떤 내용을 포함을 하고 있냐면 의대는 왜 전략이 중요한지 이 부분을 포함하고 있어요. 물론 실력이 더 중요하지만 사실 의대는 굉장히 많은 수가 영국에서 많은 사람을 뽑지만 외국 학생들은 굉장히 적은 수를 뽑아요. 그래서 전략이 왜 중요한지 이 부분에 대해서 주로 설명을 해드리고요. 그리고 GCS부터 그다음에 전문의까지 어떤 과정으로 이루어졌는지 이 부분을 좀 야스민 사와가 다뤄드리겠습니다. 그리고 Intercalated Year라는 부분이 있는데 이 과정을 의대를 선택할 때 선택할 수 있는 건데 1년을 공부하고 예를 들면 뭐 나는 브라이튼 서섹스에서 공부를 하고 있다. 하지만 1년 과정을 UCL에서 해서 UCL 석사를 받을 수 있다. 왜 이런 기회가 있거든요. 의대를 공부하다가. 그래서 제 학생도 그렇게 하는 학생이 한 명 있고요. 그래서 이 부분은 중간에 나오는 부분이고 이해하기 좀 힘든 부분, 이제까지 얘기하지 않는 부분이어서 포함을 시켰고요. 그다음에 각 의대별로 다른 티칭 스타일이 있거든요. 의대 티칭 스타일이 있으니까 이 부분에 대해서 좀 고려를 해서 의대를 좀 선택을 해야 되고요. 그다음에 의대 지원 절차를 알려주는데 사실 이 부분이 가장 중요한 포인트일 거예요. 의대 입학에 대해서. 그래서 영국 의사에 적합한 사람을 뽑으려고 의대 입학 프로세스는 디자인되어 있어요. 그래서 이 부분은 반드시 좀 모든 분들이 아셔야 될 것 같고요. 그리고 학년별로 언제 시작했는 GCS 시작했을 때 어떤 준비를 해야 되고 GCS 2년차, A레벨 1년차, 2년차는 어떤 준비를 해야 되는지 이 부분까지 세세하게 포함을 하고 있습니다. 그리고 6개 B맷 있고요. 그다음에 심지어는 문제풀이를 어떻게 하는지 야스민 사우가 어떻게 문제풀이를 해주는지 왜 이 부분을 간단히 샘플로 있으니까요. 이 부분까지 포함을 하고 있고요. 그다음에 Ucas 지원, 자기소개서, 인터뷰 준비 왜 이런 걸 가지고 그러면 어떤 전략으로 의대를 지원해야 될지 이 부분을 포함하고 있어요. 가장 중요한 부분이겠죠. 그래서 OIC 학생들은 OIC 의대 입학 전략이라든지 이런 부분들은 다 트레이닝을 받고 있기 때문에 왜 이런 부분은 자연스럽게 익히겠지만 만약에 OIC 학생이 아니라고 하면 여름에 디지털 서머 유니버스 프리페이션 하거든요. 그래서 여기에 아론 홉데이 씨가 이걸 주관을 또 하고 있어요. 그래서 OIC 프로그램을 좀 경험하고 싶다. 자기소개서는 어떻게 하고 인터뷰 준비를 어떻게 하고 익스피리언스를 어떻게 하는지 이런 부분에 대해서 알고 싶다라고 하면 이 부분을 포함하고 있으니까요. 이 부분을 좀 주의 깊게 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 그래요. 그러면 지금 시작을 하도록 할게요. 스밋, you are ready?
Yeah, I am. Thank you very much.
Okay. You can share your screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we start these slides? Yeah. Thank you very much, Suno.
Okay. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, good morning from the UK and good evening to everybody. Today's session is on entering medical school and the strategies that you would need to apply for your university application to the world's most competitive course, medicine or healthcare degrees such as medicine, dentistry, veterinary, and so on. Next slide, please. So a little bit about myself. My name is Yasmin Sarwar의. I'm the Chief Education Officer at Oxford International College since 2017. I'm also the founder of Cardiff Sixth College, which is the top school in the UK for 9 consecutive years until I joined OIC, and OIC has now ranked top in the UK since 2019. And I'm also an interview panelist for quite a number of medical schools, actually more than 2 medical schools now. And I have dedicated my career not just as a teacher in chemistry and biology, but also I would consider myself as an academic strategist. And what that means is I help my students to really map out their academic and their career planning. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, the career development. In 2011, I won the Best Science Tutor of the Year award. As I said, I teach chemistry and biology. I received my award from David Cameron, who was the Prime Minister at the time. In 2015, I won the Welsh Woman of the Year award for education. And I also received an award from the Class Nobel Educator of Distinction Award, which is given by the Nobel family. I did a TEDx talk in 2016 about education reforms. I'm obviously very proud of the academic excellence of both of my schools, that one that I created and another one that I led to #1 position in the UK. I'm very proud. I'm more prouder of the fact that we've had fantastic university destinations for international students, because the bar for international students is much higher than it is for British local students. I myself came to the UK as an international student. I'm from Malaysia, came and I studied natural science at Cambridge University, and the bar is just a lot higher. You have to go through a lot of odds and challenges to get into top universities, not just in the UK, but generally across the worldwide. And that's really important to make sure that you have the right strategy and the journey. So over the course of the last 10 years, I have sent nearly 1,000 students to top universities worldwide, 300 students to G5 universities, Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, Imperial College London, University College London. So those are the G5 universities. And these are for students who had applied for non-medical courses, and over 400 students for medical schools. And the reason why I do that differentiation between non-medical schools, medical courses and non-medical courses are because for medicine, there is a quota of 7.5% cap on international students. And that's why the odds for international students getting into medical schools is even greater than perhaps other courses. 100% of our students have received offers to Russell Group. So Russell Group is known as the Ivy League universities. I've also had students who have gone to top universities or the Ivy League universities in the US. My first application to the US, and the student had an offer from Harvard. We also have students going into universities, top universities worldwide as well. So I'm really, really proud of our university admissions because I believe that the career development actually, in my opinion, supersedes the academic excellence. The academic excellence is just a byproduct of that journey. But what we really should be focusing on is making sure that you develop your passion, creating and ensuring that you have the building blocks for your passion, and then making sure that you have the right strategy. Next slide, please. So just to share with you some of our students in 2019 and where they've gone to. So as you can see, you can see the number of subjects that they took at A-level, also the universities they've gone to, and the courses they've taken as well. So just to share with you some of our successes. As you can see, if you look at Adrian and Oliver, for example, Oliver did 3 subjects, Adrian did 5 subjects, and both of them got into medical school at Cambridge. And this really showcases that it doesn't, it's not about the number of subjects, it's more about an individual journey. It's very important to make sure that you have a personalized approach. It's not one size fits all. And secondly, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So it's going to take, it's a process that you have to go through. So, students who take 3 subjects or students take 5 subjects equally are getting in. So it's not the number of subjects that is defining, it's obviously the quality of results. And there are also other things that is taken into account when you apply to top universities. My career has always been about students getting into top universities because I think for students, it's a lifestyle choice. So if you're aiming to go to top universities because you not only want to have that fantastic degree, but also because you want to have that skill sets that's going to last you for a lifetime, then it's really important that you go through a certain process. So just to share with you some of our students and their successes, and as you can see, again, another slide here for 2020. Now, 2020, as we all know, was the start of the pandemic year, and that's when exams were cancelled, and the odds were again really high against international students because of 3 reasons. Number one, student numbers were displaced due to the exams being cancelled, and they were deferred, places were being made. Number 2, grade inflation. Last year the grade inflation was 2.4%. This year is expected to be higher. And the third reason is the disruption to students' academic journey, and therefore top universities are concerned about whether or not students can cope at universities, and they're concerned about the once the students graduate. So because of that, universities are making much less offers than they used to pre-pandemic. So pre-pandemic they would make ×2 to ×5 per place, but currently they're only making ×1.5 to most 2 times per place. So despite these really the barriers and the odds against international students, again, last year we did an epic year of university destinations. As you can see, again, results that students have obtained and the universities they're going to, and also the courses they're doing. We have 3 career groups in our college, and all 3 career groups are really given a lot of support from the point of career development. So we have the life sciences, which is for the medics, the dentists, the vets, and then we have the physical sciences and mathematics for the engineers, computer science and mathematicians. And then you also have the commerce group, which is the humanities and commerce for lawyers, economics, PPE. And of course, within that group, there's so much variation within the commerce and humanities group. So again, that showcases some of the courses that our students have got into last year. This year, again, the odds are much higher than last year. In fact, 2021 is a more difficult year. Oxford, for example, has made the lowest number of offers in a decade. And Cambridge University, they have introduced the oversubscription clause, which means even if you have the offer, you still have to compete. So despite these admission barriers for international students, as I said, we've had an epic year in 2020. 1 in 3 Oxbridge application receive an offer. Nationwide, it was 1 in 5, so 19.25% as opposed to 30% that we had. 1 in 2 got into Oxford, 1 in 3 got into Cambridge, and 60% of our leavers will go to the G5 universities: Oxford, Cambridge, UCL, LSE, and Imperial. We also had fantastic offers to US as well, again, to the Ivy League institutions. Next slide, please. So 2020 A-level results really changed the university admissions landscape for all school years, in particular for year 10, year 11, year 12, and year 13. And this domino effect is going to last for at least the next 3 to 4 years, because exams are again cancelled this year, and there could be changes to the curriculum in GCSEs and A-levels next year. And because of that, there has been changes in terms of university admissions, or the way universities are going to assess the students, because again, they're concerned about three things, as I mentioned earlier on. Number one, student displacement in terms of student numbers. Number two, in terms of the level of disruption that has caused students' academic journey. But number three, it's also the grade inflation that they're concerned about. So it's really important that you are aware of these changes, but also to embrace a new learning and teaching strategy so that you do succeed in your university application. So strategy is very, very important about getting into top universities, and in particular for courses like medicine, where there's a 7.5% cap. Next slide, please. So how do you get into a UK medical school? Next slide, please. Now, first of all, why study medicine? This is a very important fundamental question, which you will undoubtedly going to be asked at interview as well. Now, this might seem to be a very easy question, but it's actually one of the most difficult one, because you are in an interview for 40 minutes and you have to convince your interviewers that this is something you genuinely, passionately want to do. And also when you write your personal statement as well. I often find that students, in particular international students that come from Southeast Asia, and I find that they really want to study medicine. They're academically very bright, but when it comes to expressing the reason why studying medicine, they always find it difficult actually to express passionately. So why study medicine? Well, the common thing is to make a difference to people's lives by helping to alleviate pain and suffering. So, you know, that's a common goal for any prospective medical student. Now, there's obviously a wide choice of careers as well. You know, there's over 60 specialities within the medical field. And that's amazing because you get to choose from such wide range of courses and careers in the future once you start training. The day-to-day work can be very varied. So one day is very different to another. In fact, even within the day, you're going to see lots of different patients. So you're always going to be intellectually being stimulated because you're always going to be a problem solver, right? So doctors are problem solvers. So they're not just caring for patients, they're also solving problems. So if you like the skill, if you have the skill set to be a problem solver, then medicine is obviously a great career to go into. Doctors will always be in demand. I have not come across an unemployed doctor. There's always going to be in demand, especially as we can see the heroes of the pandemic has been the healthcare profession around the world. You know, I mean, in fact, last year and this year, there has been an increase in students applying for healthcare courses because it is now seen that a lot of young people want to make a difference in the world, and they want to help. They're seeing even younger children now, they're seeing a trend of people wanting to go into healthcare field. So it's always going to be in demand. And also in medicine is not just about, okay, you're going to be a doctor. There's so much attached to being a doctor. You have opportunities to get involved with teaching, with research, with management, you know. So once you graduate from your course, it doesn't have to be that you have to go into clinical practice. You know, you could go into research and do clinical practice at the same time, or you can go into management. You know, you can, in fact, doctors are also you have to be an employer, you have to be a business leader because you are running your own clinic. So you would also have entrepreneurship skills as well, or you could be running your own hospital or clinic. And also lots of doctors go into teaching and research. So that's quite a popular thing as well. So there's so much variety to choose from. Next slide, please. But while you're looking at why study medicine, you also need to look at why not to study medicine. Well, first of all, it's long hours. Very long hours, and your life is not really yours anymore. You are there for others. So you have to consider, do you want this work-life balance? Because you're always going to be on call. Of course, you can change. For example, once you start training, you can train to be a GP, but even GPs are on call. So GPs is general practitioner. or you can go into research and teaching, so you don't have to be on clinical calls. You can change your lifestyle depending on what suits you best at the time. But then if you have an interest in surgery or anesthesia, or you want to be a gynecologist or an obstetrician, for example, you are going to be on call all the time. You know, I have seen many of my students' parents, I have seen how much of, you know, they are on call all the time. So again, this is a long hours, work-life balance. You have to consider that. It's also physically and emotionally demanding, because it's life and death problems that you are solving, and sometimes you are solving these issues where you have very limited resources, you know, as we have seen during the pandemic, where you have to make choices. So again, it's very emotionally demanding. So you have to have love this passion, not just passionate, but you got to love your passion so much that this is something you want to do for the rest of your life. There's also long training period. Of course, you start earning from the time you are doing your foundation years, but it is long training because you will specialize and then you will continue to train. And it's lifelong learning vocation. You never stop training because you want to pick another specialty, or you want to keep up to date to the latest developments and things. As I said earlier on, you're dealing with death, so very difficult decisions. And you must not go into medicine solely for the money. Of course, the job security is fantastic. And as you grow older and you build your expertise and specialities, you will then have more opportunities to run your clinic, or go into private, or work with the government, or go into management. So there's so many things that you can do, but it must not be solely for the money, because there are lots and lots of other ways where you can earn more money from the outset, you know, because there are people who are going into, for example, the space industry and earning lots of money there. Also, there's medicine in space as well, which is also fantastic. And of course, you must not do this because it's your parents' expectations, or your family or your peers, because that will come across very clearly that you're not doing this for your own, because you're passionate about it. Next slide, please. So why study medicine in the UK? Well, first of all, it's globally recognized. So a qualification that you will gain from the UK is globally recognized. There's a variety of locations. There are 33 schools in the UK that offers medicine. And the beauty about the UK compared to other countries is that they would offer you the undergraduate and postgraduate options, because most other countries always give you postgraduate option, which means you have to do a biomedical degree or a science degree, and then you do a 3-year science degree, and then you do a 4 years graduate degree. So that takes you like 7 to 8 years before you start training. Whereas in the UK, you can complete it within 5 or 6 years. So you're saving 2 years to be able to start training, rather than 8 years and then train after that. So the UK, I would say, if you want to do medicine, I always tell my students the best universities in the world for medical school is going to be in the UK, because of the way they teach the course element, and also because they offer the undergraduate rather than postgraduate degree. Next slide, please. So what are the pathway to medicine? So we're going to start pre-year 10. So if you are in form 3, form 4, form 3 sort of thing. So we're going to look at pre-year 10. So pre-year 10 onwards, you really need to start building your career knowledge. So things like wider reading. So start reading materials related to medicine. Also, when you're learning biology and chemistry, then start to extend your knowledge. So if you're learning something about the heart, then, you know, if you're learning about circulatory system, then go into the depths of what are the diseases in circulatory system. So myocardial infarction, heart disease, heart attack, you know, so learn a little bit more extension of what you learn in school. And that will be really good from a subject knowledge. Also start looking at supercurricular activities. So wider reading, go for work experience. If you can't get work experience, go to the museum and, you know, look at, you know, there are museums, for example, we have museums in the UK where we learn about microbiology, or you learn about how diseases is, or you learn about the discovery of drugs over the last 50 years. For example, the discovery of penicillin, antibiotics. So start reading those things. Year 10 onwards, so this is when you're in Form 4 onwards, you must make sure that you are doing the right curriculum. So choose the right GCSE, IGCSE, A-level subjects, and work hard on your academics, because you are competing when you're applying for medical school. And in fact, you're competing in any country. Even if you're applying in South Korea for medicine, you will be competing, because medicine just has limited seats. Every country has limited seats for medicine, and there's just too many students applying for medicine. So make sure you choose the right subjects and right curriculum. So if you are in the Korean system, for example, and you decide that you want to go into medicine and you want to come to the UK, then perhaps you need to explore taking GCSEs or A-levels. So think about where you're at and where you're going ahead, and choose the right curriculum. By the time you get to year 12, whether you're doing A-levels or IB, then you must strategize and focus your preparation. This is when you're going to be doing all the other things that's required by the universities, not just your academics. This is when you're going to choose your universities as well. In year 13, you will complete all the components, the prerequisites components of your university application. So whether it's aptitude test, submit your university application, attend interviews, obtain offers, hopefully. And then after year 13, you receive your A-level results, and hopefully you've got an offer, you meet the conditions of your offer, and you start university. Next slide, please. The pathway to medicine. So there's actually 3 areas here. So you would, you either do an undergraduate MBBS, which is the Bachelor of Medicine or Bachelor of Surgery, or you can also achieve an MBCHB, which also has the same qualification. This is a 5-year program. Or you can do an undergraduate entry with intercalated year. So MBBS plus another degree, which is a BSc or an MSc. B stands for Bachelor, M stands for Master. That's the 6th year. So some universities have compulsory intercalated degrees, so Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial, UCL, or they could give you an optional intercalated year. So what happens with intercalated is that you choose a module or choose a year where you study something either related to medicine, or you can do something different. Some students either choose something like anatomy, physiology, they can choose a mental health, for example, they can choose that components, or you can choose something else, like you can choose medical philosophy or medical ethics, or you can choose management, business and management, or IT, AI, artificial intelligence, which is quite a popular thing as well, AI. So you can choose whatever, from a wide range of options, and that gives you another degree on top of your MBBS and MBCHB. That's quite a popular thing among students with the intercalated year. If it's compulsory, then you have to obviously take it. If it's optional, then you do have to compete for the intercalated year. Undergraduate degree, or the other option is you take an undergraduate degree in, say, biomedical science and anatomy, pharmacy, or it could even be engineering. It doesn't have to be specifically related to medicine. It could be any undergraduate degree. You complete 3 years of that, and then you apply for graduate entry at 4 years. The difference between applying through undergraduate and graduate is that undergraduate degree, they are more the graduate degree is they have a much smaller cohort. So competition is actually quite tough when you apply through undergraduate to graduate. When you apply through undergraduate entry, there's more spaces, and obviously there's more applicants as well. But because you're applying as a high school leaver, the requirements or the things that you have to compete with, in a way, my opinion is that that's actually a much straightforward route compared to applying through the graduate entry, because you spend 3 years, you have to get a certain qualification, and then there's still no guarantee you're going to get into the graduate entry. So you have to be really happy with the undergraduate degree you're doing in the event you don't get into graduate entry. So I would say the undergraduate route, even if you have to take a gap year and reapply, in my opinion, is a better route than taking the undergraduate degree 3 years and then applying for 4 years graduate entry. Next slide, please. So once you've graduated from medicine, then you will have a 2 years foundation program. So after you've graduated, after 5 years or 6 years, if you're doing undergraduate or intercalated, or once you graduate from the 7-year route, if you're doing the graduate entry route, you would then have 2 years of foundation program. You will start earning at the time when you start your foundation. So you're already a doctor, you are starting to earn money, but then you are doing a foundation program, and after the foundation program, the idea of the foundation program is to allow you to explore the different specialties. As I said earlier on, there's 60 different specialties, so you can then explore which area you want to go into, whether you want to do GP training or if you want to do other specialty training. So GP training is 3 years. Other specialty training could be anything between 5 to 8 years, but you are a doctor, you are earning through this period. It's just a lifelong learning vocation, so you continue to train. Some training could last up to 8 years, especially if you're doing a very specific niche training in an area where is less demand, for example, or not less demand, but it's an area where perhaps it's not, is a very, like maxillofacial, for example, you know, if you're doing something like that, then that will take you a longer time to train. So it really depends. Your foundation program is very important, because then you will decide which area. Not even if you have an interest right now, if you want to be a neurosurgeon, it's very important that you keep an open mind, because by the time you get to foundation program, you might change and you might want to explore different things. Next slide, please. So choosing a medical school, how should you choose a medical school? Well, of course, when you're coming to the UK, as I said, there are about 33 different medical schools. Some of them are graduate schools. There are also schools which don't take international students, they only take local students, and then you've got the rest, which is normally around, I think, 26, 27 universities that you can apply to as international students. Obviously, you can choose based on location. You need to obviously like the city, because you're going to be living there for 5 or 6 years, so you want to like the city. There's obviously intercalation. Some medical schools don't offer it, so if you really want to have the intercalation degree, then you need to apply to those universities. Of course, is also you need to choose the course, because the learning style in medical school from one university to another is very different. So you have to choose the right learning style to you. But also, when it comes to choosing medical school, it also really depends on how well you have done on the different components. Because if you haven't done as well in certain components, then your choices becomes limited. So if you want to keep your choices broader, then you have to make sure that you do well in every single component. Otherwise, you become limited, and therefore you will have to choose the universities based on your, your academic merits or admission test results, or which university suits you best in terms of interviews as well. Because for medicine, unlike other courses, you can get anything between 0 offers to 4 offers. You will normally apply to 4 medical schools through the Ucas system. Next slide, please. So in terms of course type or teaching style, what are the different teaching styles? So there are universities that offer traditional teaching style. So that's like Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial. Then you have the problem-based teaching style. And then you have the integrated. Integrated is a combination of traditional and problem-based. Traditional is lecture-based, and problem-based is when they give you scenarios and tasks, and with the help of your tutor as a facilitator, but you have to solve the problem. So which course would suit your personality? I mean, I know some students, I had a boy from Hong Kong once, I still remember, he was absolutely amazing. You know, he could have chosen any university he wanted to go to, but then he decided after doing his research that he really liked the problem-based style, and that's why he wanted to go to problem-based university. So you have to really choose what suits you. Again, it's 5 to 6 years of your life, really. Next slide, please. So the traditional, so let's talk about traditional course. A traditional course is really split into preclinical and clinical years. So the preclinical, so these are places like Oxford and Cambridge University. So in the first 3 years, you'll be studying scientific foundations of medicine. So you will be studying physiology, biochemistry, anatomy, pharmacology. So you'll be learning the scientific knowledge that is the basic ground of medicine. And that's why after 3 years, when you're in Oxford and Cambridge, you will actually get a BA degree because you're learning the scientific knowledge rather than doing clinical years in the first 3 years. Then once you've completed your preclinical years, you will then start your clinical years in the 4th year. And this is when you will do, you will be attached to a hospital or GP. So patient contact starts from year 4. So if you want to have patient contact from day 1, then a traditional course will not suit you. You will not like it at all. But if you are the kind of person who want to build your scientific knowledge first, then a traditional course will suit you. Next slide, please. The problem-based learning is very student-centered approach, so it's different from a traditional aspect. So what happens is you are given a particular scenario. So for example, it could be a scenario where a patient comes in with a child, a mother, a 30-year-old mother with say 6-year-old child comes into the hospital. The child is showing the symptoms, and the symptoms seems to be similar to meningitis, and then you basically go through the whole scenario. And then in that particular week, you will have lectures around meningitis. You will have lectures around the brain because of meningitis. You will have lectures related to, the similar conditions to meningitis, but you're given a task and you have to attend these lectures. You're basically a detective, really. You have to solve the problem as a group, working in a group in your team, and you will have your tutor as a facilitator, but you are leading that group work. Learning is focused around cases. It also encourages greater comprehension because you have to have a greater understanding of the problems that you are being given, and of course you'll be attending the lectures to be able to gain the knowledge to solve that particular problem. And then so every month you'll be given different cases and you're solving problem. And also the problem-based learning means you will have early clinical exposure from day 1. You could be in a clinical setting in year 1, basically. So I think that's that's, if you are interested in a clinical exposure kind of thing, then of course a problem-based learning course suits you better. The only thing is you will not have a structured sort of system where you are learning, okay, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. What's happening is you're given a case, you have to solve it, and you attend lectures related to the cases, but you are attending the lectures to solve the problem. Okay, so next slide, please. Integrated course. So integrated course is very popular. It's a system-based approach. This is the most popular system amongst medical school. So material is taught according to bodily system rather than individual subjects. So when you're studying circulatory system, you will cover the anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pharmacology, pathology of the circulatory system. So you are learning bodily systems, and then you'll learn everything about the bodily systems. So that's basically systems-based approach. That's what it means. And again, you will have early patient contact from year 1, In fact, in integrated courses, you probably get attached to a GP. Some universities like Cardiff and Bristol, what they do is you get attached to a GP, you get attached to a patient throughout the year, and in particular maternity patients, so women who are going to give birth. So they normally attach you to that, to a patient, and you basically do home visits, and you go through that whole 9 months with the patient. So it's quite a different setting to the other 2 options. So if you like an integrated course because you want to study bodily systems, and again you want to have early patient contact, then integrated course will be more suited to you. Most universities have integrated courses. Next slide, please. So what are the key things of being a doctor? Well, there are 3 things you have to bear in mind: academic, character, personality. From an academic point of view, you need to be a critical thinker, you need to be a problem solver, you need to have the academic ability and the knowledge within that field as well. So you have to have really sound grounds in scientific knowledge. You need to be prepared for independent lifelong learning experience. So if you can demonstrate evidences that you you are a critical thinker, you are a problem solver, you have great knowledge, you can evidence that you are interested in independent lifelong learning. So for example, by doing any project that you can do independently that demonstrates that you have, you'll be able to transfer that skill sets at medical school. You also obviously need to have the right personality. You need to have the ability to prioritize. So most prospective medical students are very busy students. They have academic life. They also have a supercurricular life, because that is linking to why they want to study medicine, and making sure they can provide the evidences of the skills that's required. So they have very busy life. You know, you're doing supercurricular, you're doing extracurricular, you're doing academic, and you also have your family, you have your friends, you have yourself. So prospective medical students are very, very busy, perhaps even more busier than other career group students. So you need to be able to demonstrate how you're going to be able to prioritize, you know, and some medical students might be doing 4 subjects, 5 subjects. Again, you have to demonstrate the ability to prioritize. So medical schools are looking at your whole profile, and they are looking at whether can you cope. Can you cope? That's the main thing. Can you manage the pressure? Can you manage the elements? And if you can demonstrate all that, then that's how you get into med school. You have to be a great communicator as well, because you are dealing with patients, and you have to be, and you're working within teams. So you've got to demonstrate good communication skills. And it doesn't mean that you have to be great in English language, for example, or it doesn't matter if you have an accent and sort of thing. What's important is you have the confidence to be able to talk and speak and express your opinion. And you also have to have empathy skills. Empathy skills means that you have to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and think about them. You know, so for example, you're already a very empathetic person, because you probably help your friends, your family, you know, your social circles. So empathy is something that doesn't have to be because you want to do medicine. Empathy could be just something that we live through our daily lives, because we have to live in a society. You also have to have the right character. So you have to have responsibility. You need to be a responsible person. You need to be able to demonstrate that you're both a leader and a team player, because there will be, there will be times when you have to lead, and there'll be times that you have to be a team player. You need to be able to work well under pressure, and resilient, my favorite word. I always tell my students the key thing to anything in life. If there's one thing that my students will take away from being at OIC, is the ability to be resilient. And that's key, again, for medical school as well, and a medical career moving forward. Next slide, please. So the application process is actually designed, of course, to select the most suitable candidates, because it's very competitive. So admission tutors are looking for academic strength, but also personality and character quality. So not only you got to be, good in your academic is only going to get your foot in the door. Then you have to demonstrate personality and character qualities. So academic is judged through your predicted grades, your actual grades. It's also judged through your reference, and is judged through the admission test, Ucas and Bmat. Your personality and character is judged through your personal statement, your interview, and reference. So that is how admission tutors are going to be judging your academic, personality, and character. Next slide, please. So in terms of preparation and application, so let's go back again to pre-year 10 onwards. My message to all of you, all the students who are listening today, is you must start early. It's never too late. Start now. Whatever year group you're in, you must start early, because the bar against is very high for international students. The odds are very high. So you need to start early. So again, as I mentioned earlier on, start looking at things where you can build your supercurricular activities. So attend public lectures, go read medical blogs, news, documentaries. Have you read what's recent? Not just what's happening in your country, but worldwide as well. Make notes of it. Don't just read it because you're going to forget. So make notes. So treat it the same way as you would treat your chemistry, biology, maths at school. Because, when you're studying chemistry, you will go through a textbook, you will write notes, and you will remember because you have to study. So do the same thing with your medical blogs, news, and document. This is something that we do at OIC. We spend like 10 hours a week on supercurricular activities. So please make sure that you are making notes of what you're learning, not just ticking boxes and attending them. Wider reading, read lots and lots. There's so many books in medicine. You know, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. That's a brilliant book. You can read about medical ethics by Tony Hope. There's so many medical related books that you could read, and there's some things about medical junior doctors, for example. There's also the General Medical Council articles as well, which is fantastic to read. The BMJ, the British Medical Journal, I'm sure there's an equivalent in South Korea as well that you can read about medicine in your country. Become a first aider, become a first aid, you know, that's quite a good thing. So work with St. John's Ambulance, for example. Again, you must have an equivalent in South Korea. You know, clubs and societies at school. At OIC, our students are not just first aiders, but they also do first aid in mental health, because mental health is, again, really affecting all disciplines of medicine. So, you know, all our students take part in the mental health first aid program. So it doesn't just help you, but it also helps your people around you, your friends, your society. Work experience, volunteering work, very important. So if you can get any volunteering work or work experience working with children, elderly, and the public, that would be really useful. Take part in non-academic, academic projects and competition. It doesn't have to be related to medicine. So you could take part in a technology competition. Our students, for example, take part in the space design challenge. They take part in geography, in environmental challenge. So don't just take part in things that you think are related to medicine. Take part in a much wider range to show transferable skills. Online courses show independent learning, extended project qualification, EPQ, really good qualification to take on to show research skills. Next slide, please. Hi, I'm sorry, I think it just froze a little bit there. Preparation and application, work experience, volunteering. Again, look at taking part in hospital, care home, hospice, working with young children. Volunteering is something that you would do that will take over a longer period of time. So volunteering is something that you should be doing as a regular session. So something that you do on a weekly basis, or something that you do on a termly basis. Work experience could be done something on just 1 week. So normally at OIC, we do work experience every half term. Or the summer holidays. But volunteering is something that you can do on a weekly basis. So even if you can spare an hour a week, that would be really, really useful. And you can work in a hospital, care home, hospice, and so on. Next slide, please. So it's really important that you need to build up the evidence to demonstrate that, you know, you're really passionate about medicine. So make notes, very important that you make notes, reflect upon what you've done. So don't just go for your work experience and describe it. So you have to describe what you've done, explain what did you learn from what you've done, but also reflect on what made an impact on you. So for example, if you saw a hospital case and you saw a patient with cancer, for example, right? So you describe, what did you do? Did you talk to the patient? What did you learn from the doctor? And then you explain, okay, what else did you learn about that? Maybe you learned about the situation with about cancer. Did you go into the depths of what that cancer, how did that patient get the, you know, what was the symptoms? And you go in learning about cancer itself. And then you must reflect. Reflect means what impact it had on you. What are your follow-up steps? You know, what are your action points? Are you going to do more research about that? And sometimes you could even have drastic impact. You know, I had a student who he went for work experience, and he met with he was following a patient, a young girl, 18-year-old girl who had cancer, and he had so much impact on him that he actually shaved his head to raise funds for her. So sometimes the impact could be so great that you take that action. I'm not suggesting you do that, but I'm just saying that you need to have a reflection in terms of how did that impact you. Collate references and certificates. Very important that you get your references, because when you apply to medical school, they may ask you to fill up a questionnaire which will ask you to list down all the work experiences that you've done and where you've done it and the contact details of the places that you've done, because they want to check whether you have taken these placements. More importantly, when you go for your work experience and so on, you can really affirm your career choice. It can really make you decide whether or not this is right for you. And if you choose that this is not right for you, that's okay as well. I mean, I had a student who, when I first met her, she wanted to do medicine. Her sister was also doing medicine. I taught her older sister, and she went through the process of work experience. She went through the process of voluntary work and so on. And after that, she said to me, I don't want to do medicine. I want to do engineering, which is great. That's a great outcome, and she got into Cambridge for engineering. So the process is still the same. Getting to top university process is exactly the same, whatever course you decide, but it's really important that you choose based on what you really want to do. Next slide, please. So at GCSE, when you're in year 10, it's very important that you have good academic subjects. Do at least 8 strong academic subjects, include sciences, so chemistry, biology, physics, maths, and English. Don't choose double awards, so don't choose like just 2 sciences, because I've seen some students, they leave physics, but they do chemistry and biology. You must not do that at GCSE. So do take the 3 subjects and then include maths and English as well. Next slide, please. So at year 12, when you do A-level, then of course chemistry is a must. Sorry, if you can go back one slide. Chemistry is a must at all medical schools. Biology is a must for most medical schools. So technically, normally people do chemistry and biology. And of course, maths go along very well with chemistry and biology. Your 4th choice can be anything, but do a strong facilitating subject. So you can choose physics, economics, psychology, geography. There's a lot of range of subject as a 4th subject, but chemistry, biology, and maths is always the normal combination. I think in my 20 years career, I think I've only had 2 or 3 students who have gone into medical school without maths. Now, always aim for top grades, not minimum entry requirements. So always aim for the very best. So even though the minimum entry requirements say 3 A's, aim for A stars, because if you aim for A star, you might end up with A's, but if you aim for an A, you might end up with a B or a C. So always aim for the top results. Some universities actually would prefer, so for example, if you're applying to Cambridge, they would prefer you to have maths, like Trinity College at Cambridge. They don't like students if you didn't have maths. But then you also have some universities like UCL who would like you to have a 4th subject, which shows a more broader range of things. So it could be like psychology or economics. Although saying that though, my international students, whether it's UCL, Imperial, Cambridge, and so on, they've the kind of traditional subjects like physics, economics has been quite a popular thing as a 4th subject. Next slide, please. So then you look at in year 12, it's the time to consolidate your preparation. So attend open days, start shortlisting universities, ensure that you understand all the admission requirements, but not just understand. There are 2 types of requirements. One is a minimum requirement and one is a threshold requirement. So for example, if the university said, oh, Ucas threshold last year was 2,680, and then you think, oh, well, I got 2,700, I should be okay this year. It doesn't work like that, because it works on the cohort. Also, minimum threshold may mean it's for British students, not for international students. So that's, again, you have to bear in mind that sometimes the information given to you doesn't actually represent you. So you have to know the differences. And that's one of the things that we do at OIC, is making sure that we're very strategic for each of our students, depending on, whether they're local student or they're international student. Familiarize yourself with admission stats. Start early. So if you are pre-year 10, if you can start building the skills required for admission test, then it will really serve you well when you get to year 12. Next slide, please. Before and during year 13 or after, if you're taking a gap year, then you've got to prepare and sit for the aptitude test, the admission test, as I call it, Bmat and Ucat. You obviously write your personal statement, you submit your application, you attend interviews. Now, this is what I call as completing the things, but you really need to start the building blocks earlier. And if you can start the building blocks before year 10, you know, that will be amazing. And building blocks for all those components, the building blocks for your personal statement. It's not the quality of what you write, of course, that's important, but the substance, what you put in your personal statement is very important. What you say in your interview, the substance over style, anytime, substance over style, that's really important. Next slide, please. So aptitude tests, what are they testing you? The Bmat and Ucas. So they're testing you on your general cognitive skills, your logic and critical thinking skills, your reasoning skills, attention to detail. So those are the kind of thinking, the thinking skill, the higher order thinking skills. And the sooner you start with these preparation at a younger age is better for you. There are subject-specific cognitive skills that they also look at. So ability to interpret sources, application of subject knowledge, maths and science. So advanced maths, advanced science, accurate and effective use of language skills, essay writing skills. So these are the skills that you're going to be tested on. We teach these skills within our curriculum. So we actually have in our timetable, we have skill sessions, and students are taught all these skills to prepare for any admission test, because you may change your mind in terms of the courses that you want to do by the time you get to year 13. The next slide, please. So how universities use admission tests? Well, first of all, they use admission tests, the Ucat and the Bmat, as a cutoff. So there's a cutoff, you know, if you get below that, they won't consider you. And then they also have a ranking. So normally if you're in the top 20% of the quartile of people who have applied to the university, you'll be called for interview. And some universities also consider the aptitude test alongside the other components of application process. So for example, they may still call you for interview even though your Ucat score or Bmat score is low, but because they're looking at that as a holistic process. But majority of these universities actually rank students based on aptitude tests. In particular, last year and this year, because exams were cancelled, there's the grade inflation, there's the problem where the students are ready for university, there's also the problem of student numbers being displaced. So because of that, an aptitude test is becoming the most important element in your university application. Next slide, please. So for example, in University of Oxford, so as you can see the percentages, the distribution of the Bmat scores, and you can see the number of students who were not interviewed but no place and then were given place. You have to bear in mind that some of these scores represent local students. So if you're an international student, you have to be between above 70 to 74.9, 75 to 75.9 puts you in a better place, but you have to be, I would say, to be on the safe side is 70 to 74.9 as a distribution. So this is the distribution of Bmat scores, as you can see. Next slide, please. The aptitude test, Bmat, is known as the biomedical admission test, is required by some of the UK top medical and dental schools, and a number of international universities are requiring Bmat. So for example, there are some universities in Malaysia, in Thailand, in Australia, and Singapore are looking at Bmat universities. Hong Kong universities, for example, they don't ask for Bmat or Ucat, but they do say that if you have taken Bmat and Ucat, then give us your scores, because that might help you in your university application, especially if you've done well. Next slide, please. So the Bmat structure, there's 3 sections, section 1, 2, and 3. Section 1 is multiple choice questions, reasoning and problem solving skills. You have less than 2 minutes per question, so it's very quick. Section 2, multiple choice question. This is an application of GCSE level knowledge in maths and science. Although, even though I'm saying GCSE level, although the level is actually increasingly getting harder for section 2, and approximately you have 1 minute per question. And then section 3 is essay, a choice of 3 topics, approximately around 550 words, and must not exceed 1 sheet of paper. And it's not an English language test. This is really a deep comprehension test on lots of different things. It could be even medical philosophy, you know, so you have to be prepared to be able to engage with that kind of discussion. And the way you write should be also the way you speak. So you should have a really good structure when you're writing your essay. Next slide, please. So just to share with you some of the UCAT and Bmat questions, for example. So the diagram shows a square piece of paper with identical semicircles cut out halfway along 3 of its edges. Which of the following is not a possible view of the paper after it has been folded along one of the dotted lines? I'll give you 30 seconds to try this question. Next slide. And the answer is B. We haven't got time to go through all the questions, but it's just to share with you. What I'll do is I will send, sorry, 1 second, the Bmat essay. So just to show you the different types of essay, they can ask Alexander Pope, Karl Popper, it is ridiculous to treat the living body as a mechanism, explain what this statement means, argue to the contrary. So this is just some examples of Bmat essays. Next slide, please. So essays are obviously looking at overall structure, quality of arguments, counter arguments, evidence, addressing the topics fully and coming to a conclusion. Next slide, please. So aptitude test, UCAT, is required by majority of UK medical test schools. It tests a wide range of reasoning skills. Next slide. The Ucas structure, you have verbal reasoning, decision-making, quantitative reasoning, abstract reasoning, situational judgment. So verbal reasoning is the ability to think logically and is a verbal language comprehension. And most international students find this the most difficult. So verbal reasoning is an area that people, an area that normally catches out international students. Decision-making, applying logic to reach a decision. Quantitative reasoning, international students find that that they normally do very well in quantitative reasoning. Abstract reasoning, pattern recognition, identifying relationships between shapes, and situational judgment is the ability to understand real world situations and identify important factors and appropriate responses. So you normally get a score for the first 4 sections, and the last section is more like showing you the kind of person you are in the band. It's normally a band 1 to band 4, and if you are in band 3, most universities will not accept you. So you need to be either band 1 or band 2. Some universities don't look at situational judgment, they just look at the first 4, but others do. Next slide, please. Again, just to share with you, we haven't got time to go through this, so I will share, we'll get people loving Mr. Sunoli to send this out to everybody so you can see some style of questions. And just to give you the bad news and the good news, the bad news is that the questions I've chosen is level 1, okay, because the levels increases. But the good news is you can do lots and lots of practice and prepare like any skill, if you have the right coaching, if you have the right support and you practice, you can develop the skills. This is all skills based because they can ask you anything under the sun. Next slide, please. Bmat or UCAT, well, you probably have to do both because Bmat is accepted by certain universities, like 8 universities. UCAT is required by all universities. And you also have to check each university requirement. There are some universities, for example, they'll say British students do UCAT, international students do Bmat. Universities use the data differently. Every university is different. So there is every university uses it very differently. So again, you have to understand the nuances, the differences. Next slide, please. So you've got to really strategize. As I said, you must have the right qualifications, the A-level predictions, the interview, whether or not you're suited for the interview types as well, your UCAT results, Bmat results, or your predictions. Because when you do UCAT, you will get the results on the same day, so you can choose the universities based on your UCAT results. And for Bmat, it's normally after you apply. They have 2 sessions for Bmat, one in August and one in September, one in November, although they have now cancelled the August one, so it's in November, which means that you would be applying, you will be taking the Bmat exam after you submit your university application. So Bmat comes with the risk. UCAT you will know on the day because it's computer generated. Bmat is a paper test. Well, my students all do Bmat and Ucat. Bmat is very risky because, as I said, the result comes after you've taken. So we do mocks, and we base it on mocks in terms of the decision of which universities to apply to. And Ucat, of course, is an easier one because you get the results on the day. Next slide, please. So Ucas, you'll be applying to the universities and colleges admission services. You'll be applying to, you have 5 university choices, but for medicine, dentistry, and veterinary, you can only apply to 4 medical schools. And then you will have the 5th one as an alternative choice, which is normally typically related to medicine. So you can apply to pharmacy or biomedical sciences. And you can also choose programs where there are some universities where offer biomed. And if you do well in the first year, you can then transfer into medicine, but you have to be like the best in the year kind of thing, the top 10 in the year. So that could be your 5th choice. Application deadline is 15th of October. Next slide, please. Personal statement forms part of the Ucas application. This is where you have the opportunity to explain why you want to study medicine. And this is where you can demonstrate evidence of your personal qualities and character. Next slide, please, is 4,000 lines, 4,000 characters, 27 lines. And your interview is really another moment where you can demonstrate the evidence. So you will be called for interview for medicine at all your medical school. Next slide, please. And for medicine interviews, you've got to make sure that you're really up to date with medical advances. You have to be able to interpret data, graphical data. You'll be asked for science content, especially anything that you mentioned in your personal statement. So if you said you've done research in genetics or cardiovascular or diabetes, any case studies that you talk about in your personal statement, they will ask you the scientific content on that. Be familiar with the principles of medical ethics. There are 4 medical pillars that you need to know. You're not expected to know which area of medicine. So even if you have an interest, that's fine, but keep an open mind. Make sure you really know your syllabus content at A-level or 6th form or GCSE really well, because they can ask you extended material of your current curriculum. Next slide, please. There are 2 types of interview process. There's the panel interview and mini multiple interview. Panel interview, so I sit on lots of medical school interviews. Panel interviews are normally 40 minutes long. You are normally, there will be 2 to 3 tutors, 2 to 3 panelists. Is a traditional format, and the idea is to go through your personal statement, but also ask you other questions, a broader range of questions. So it's 1 to 3 people, or 1 to 2 people. Then you've got mini multiple interviews, which are stations. You normally have 10 stations. Each station you have 10 minutes, and then as soon as the bell rings, you move to the next station, and you'll be presented a scenario at each station. Next slide, please. What do you get tested in an MMI interview? You'll be asked lots of different questions at each station. So for example, you'll be given a scenario where you have to talk about teamwork, personal qualities such as empathy and compassion. You'll be asked questions on critical thinking and problem solving. You'll be asked on awareness of current medical issues, communication skills, how you're going to think on your feet. So these are different scenarios, insight into the realities of medical career, the ability to interpret data, and the ability to follow instructions. They can ask you to tie a shoelace without tying a shoelace. So you have to go through the process of tying a shoelace. They can also be a role play. So a role play means that you have an actor in your station, and for example, it could be a scenario where you are looking after your elderly neighbor's house, and your elderly neighbor goes for vacation. You then accidentally broke the vase, and the vase is heirloom, and then now the elderly neighbor comes back. How are you going to talk to your elderly neighbor? So that's basically a role play. So you have to have very good expression skills as well. Next slide, please. I've just talked about this example of MMI scenarios. An actor plays the role of your elderly neighbor. You've just accidentally run over and killed a cat while reversing your car. You have 5 minutes to break the bad news to her. So this task really tests your integrity, empathy, ability to take responsibility for your actions. Without using your hands, explain how to tie shoelaces. So again, these are examples of MMI scenarios. What I might be asked in a panel interview? Well, you could be asked something very abstract. Should someone sell their kidney? That's an opinion-based question. At what point is a person dead? That's a scientific-based question. Should abortion be illegal? That's a controversial controversial question. How can you measure a weight of a person's liver without performing an invasive procedure? That's a critical thinking question. So again, you know, they will test you on all these different skills. Next slide, please. How to approach the questions? Well, prepare for the standard interview questions. Why medicine? You know, showcase your work experience and all that. But take some time to think about what really got you to apply to medicine. You know, make it more personal. You know, because you have to remember they read thousands, hundreds of thousands of personal statements, and they meet so many people in the interview that it'll be great if you are different and unique and you're yourself. Over preparation is not good. They're not looking for well trained. They're looking for well brained. So it's very important to have the right strategy to demonstrate that you're not over rehearsed, but you are well prepared. Quality over quantity is not about what you've learned, not, you know, it's about what you've learned rather than what you've done. So it's not a tick box exercise. Medical ethics questions, they will ask you about very complex situations. So you really need to read the literature, and you need to understand also the, so it's very important to understand like things like the General Medical Council. What are the things you have to abide by the regulations of the medical council in your country. So you need to know what the regulations are, right? Next question, next slide, please. Trust the process. Getting into medicine requires discipline and determination. If becoming a doctor is really your goal, I'm sure you'll be able to achieve it, but trust the process. Don't just look at outcomes. Very important that you trust the process along that, because the more you trust the process, the more you enjoy the journey, the better the outcomes will be. Next slide, please. Again, as I said earlier on, we are the top school in the UK in terms of A-level results. We were the only school that had achieved above 90% A-star to A grades. In 2020, we had 98% A-star to A grades. So we have been the top school in the UK since 2019. Next slide, please. There are three pillars of success as an integrated curriculum: academic excellence, career and university preparation, and personal development. And that's how we get 100% success rate to medical schools. Next slide, please. Our students don't just apply to the UK, they apply worldwide. They apply to US, Singapore, Hong Kong. We have had students who have applied to medical school in South Korea as well. So we have a personalized strategy to maximize admissions process worldwide, top universities worldwide. Next slide, please. The courses we offer at OIC: 2-year A-level, 18-month A-level program that starts in January, 2-year in September, 1-year GCSE, 15-month GCSE, and a range of short courses. Next slide, please. I think we've said that. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so we are running a online university preparation course in the summer. Next slide, please. So this is a summer university preparation program, and this is to really help students to start their preparation early. You will have access to the best specialists in the field who can really help you to make sure that you you get the best possible university application. You know, next slide, please. Again, we've talked about the track record that we've had. We are the best in the country when it comes to top university application. You will be able to do three things. You'll be learning all the academic knowledge required for a successful application. So in terms of Ucas, Bmat, you will have interview preparation, and you will have personal statement preparation. You will also be able to take part in a competition. It's called the Global Space Design Challenge, and that will demonstrate your knowledge, your supercurricular activity. And the third one will be work experience. You will have an opportunity for internship. So you will have three things: all the prerequisites required for university application. So personal statement, admission test, interview. You will also have opportunity to take part in a supercurricular activity, such as the Global Space Design Challenge, which is an Imperial College London program, and you'll be able to also take part in internship as well, 5-day digital internship as well. So you'll be able to have the networking of doctors, and it's very important that you have NHS experience. If you're going to work in the UK, you have to have the National Health Service experience. So this is a great opportunity for you to be able to see the different things that you will have access to. These are the dates, the intakes, and the summer program. Places are very limited because we can't offer internship programs to everybody, and also the competition is also limited. The challenge, should I take the 2 week or 4 weeks? It really depends on how much you want to, the depths that you want to go into. If you just want to have an awareness because you're currently in year 10 or year 11, then 2 weeks is fine. If you're currently in year 12, year 13, then you really need the 4 weeks to make sure that you have a very good solid university application. Aaron, is there anything you want to add?
Just one thing really. So my contribution would be going back a couple of slides, is this digital internship is normally held in UCL in London face-to-face. Now, given the pandemic, you guys in South Korea can take advantage of this unique situation because you can do this digital internship whilst in South Korea and doing something that other students aren't doing. You're making productive use of your summer holidays and you're furthering your interest in medicine, demonstrating for a few years' time that medicine is truly your passion. So please, please, please take advantage of this. It's a brilliant 5-day internship and we've had some fantastic feedback so far. One thing I would say very briefly is, even if you are slightly younger, you might be 14 or 15 years old, or even a super advanced 13-year-old, we would make you focus more on essay writing, whereas the older students might focus more on admissions tests, personal statement, and those kinds of things. But for the younger students, they will hone their knowledge in the following fields, such as problem solving, critical thinking skills, essay writing. And as Yasmin has mentioned in this presentation, it's been really informative. These are all key building blocks for when you're building yourself up to make that application to med school in a few years' time.
And also, more importantly, if you don't have these skills from now, you will struggle at year 12 because it is getting a lot more competitive. So the sooner you can start, the better it is, really. And you are in very good hands with People Loving. They really put so much effort. Mr. Lee puts a lot of effort in all the students to make sure that you have a personalized approach in your own journey. So if you want to apply for this course and you want to find out more, then please do speak to Mr. Lee. And remember that the summer holidays is a great time for you to be doing all these things because, again, you have to demonstrate to the universities that you are providing them evidence for your passion and that you are managing your time well, and you're showcasing that you're using your time well as well. So it's very important to be strategic, strategy, but most importantly, enjoy the process. Don't think too much of the outcome, then you're more likely to get the outcome if you enjoy the process. So my message to all of you is that, it's a great experience. Medicine is, even though it's challenging, it's so fulfilling, it's so rewarding. I'm very proud that I have made around 400 plus doctors so far worldwide, which is fantastic because some of my students have also worked very hard throughout the pandemic, helping the community, helping the society, and they've gained so much out of that from just as a rewarding experience. It's been so challenging. Some of my students are now doctors working in that kind of environment, or junior doctors, and it's been, they still contact me and they say it's such a challenging experience for them, but it's something that they would really relish, and the fact that they've made a contribution, it's been brilliant. So all the best to all of you. I'm sorry that I've gone overboard, Mr. Sunoli, because it's so much to talk about, but I wish you all the best, and I hope to see you either if you're looking to apply to OIC, or if you want to come on to the university summer program, or if you just want some advice, contact us. I also have a few videos on YouTube that you can watch in more detail about application to universities and the strategy and the skills you need. But please start sooner, get the right help and support, and plan a very personalized journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yasmin. It was great. So I will add something, in Korean. Okay. So 지금 그 세미나 하는 동안에 그 PPT 자료가 좀 필요하시는 분은 저한테 연락을 주시면 제가 좀 공개드리도록 할게요. 그래서 여기에 아까 그 샘플 뭐 퀘스천이 있거든요. 그래서 그런 거 한번 보고 싶다라고 하는 분은 연락 주시면 될 것 같고요. 그리고 야스민이 뭐 뭐냐 에듀케이션 유튜브 채널이 있거든요. 그다음에 그 링크도 제가 좀 보내드리도록 하고요. 그다음에 야스민이 얘기했던 것처럼 온라인 뭐 썸머에서 할 수 있는 프로그램도 있고요. 당연히 뭐 YC를 입학하는 그런 방법도 있겠지만 썸머 할 수 있는 프로그램도 있고요. 그리고 혹시라도 의대를 떨어졌다 그런다라고 하면 이 학교에서 1:1 코칭 같은 것도 다시 해주거든요. 리어플라이를 하는 사람들에게. 그래서 어떤 것도 도움을 다 줄 수 있으니까 왜 이런 도움을 좀 그죠? 받으시려면 언제든지 연락을 주시면 될 것 같고요. 저희 학생들 반응은 굉장히 좀 좋아요. 여기 OIC 다니지 않았던 학생이 여기 코스를 들었던 학생들은 반응은 너무너무 좋고요. 그래서 굉장히 좀 그죠? 조금만 수강했다가 거의 대부분 또 연장을 해가지고 심지어 이 학교에 가가지고 난 수업을 좀 들으면 안 되냐라고 하는 사람들이 있었으니까요. 분명히 도움이 되실 겁니다. 그래요. 그리고 그죠? 그리고 오늘 토요일 이렇게 그죠? 좀 가족과 그다음에 개인적으로 좀 쉬어하는 시간에 이렇게 듣는 분들은 굉장히 좀 열정 있는 분이라는 생각이 좀 들어요. 그리고 언제든지 제가 여기 있으니까 연락을 주시면 제가 답변을 해드리고요. 그다음에 동영상 내용이 좀 어렵거나 좀 그러실 수도 있었을 거예요. 하지만 굉장히 좀 아는 사람들 입장에서는 굉장히 좀 디테일하고 좀 괜찮은 정보가 많거든요. 그래서 제가 코리안으로 그냥 코리안 랭귀지로 좀 번역을 해서 좀 올려드리도록 그렇게 약속을 좀 드리겠습니다. 감사합니다. 오늘 세미나는 여기서 마치겠습니다. Thank you very much, Yasmin and Aaron. It was
Thank
great
you.
as usual. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice weekend. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye. 그럼 마치도록 하겠습니다. 네, 감사합니다. 감사합니다. 네, 감사합니다.